RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests or advertisers. The information on this program is not to be construed as medical or legal advice. An appearance on this show is not necessarily an endorsement, and as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. You're listening to another edition of Comfy Sunday. As always, I'm your host, RP. Joining me live in the studio is my co-host and good friend, M3. And two special guests popping in tonight. First of all, in the first hour, jrmajewski, the Trump lawn sign flag guy. And in the second hour, the Conservative-Republican Alliance's founder and everyone's favorite conservative in New York, Christopher Wright. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, but mostly about our common goal, the restoration of America. We've all got something that we can do to help out, and our guests tonight are using their unique talents to reach out and touch hearts and minds all across America. Do me a favor, guys. While you're waiting for the show to start, don't forget to like and share this broadcast. Help us break through the algorithm. Do me a favor, everyone. Please sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. Franklin's Finest Coffee is the first ever emergency survival coffee with an actual up to 25-year shelf life. The kit provides a 1-year supply of flavorful Franklin's Finest coffee for one person. It's conveniently packaged in 12 resealable, 60-serving, heavy-duty 4-layer zipper pouches for a total of 720 servings. It's all packaged in a rugged, water-resistant bucket for easy storage, and Franklin's Finest Coffee is the ultimate survival perk, especially for those that drink coffee on a daily basis. Or you can take it camping. It's 100% Colombian, and it's also the perfect item for barter or trade in an emergency. You'll thank us later for that tip. As Benjamin Franklin said, among the numerous luxuries on the table, coffee may be considered as one of the most valuable. It excites cheerfulness without intoxication, and the pleasing flow of spirits which it occasions is never followed by sadness, languor, or debility. All right, everyone, good evening and welcome back to yet another edition of Comfy Sunday. I hope everyone out there is having a nice, comfy, relaxing evening. Methods, how are you, buddy?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. Been enjoying the day, watching all the chaos going on. Hope the chat's doing well. And how are you doing, man? How are things going?
I'm doing well, you know. I had some stuff to do around the house today. We had some thunderstorms, so Chi-Chi was kind of freaking out a little bit. I always feel bad for him when there's thunder, but, you know, he's going to survive. But he's underneath the desk right now. He's sleeping because the rain stopped, so...
Right. Well, that's the makings of another muffin gate, so we'll cross our fingers. So out there in the chat, Cat Girl, yes, we do plan on going over the new posts as well. We got a lot to cover tonight.
We certainly do. I wanted to say, someone that watches this show, Sherry Elf, hopefully you're still watching the show, she has sent me some handmade stickers that she's made on a couple of occasions, and this is one that I didn't see before. She sent me a couple of Trump 2021s, an Epstein didn't kill himself sticker. Awesome. I've got them both on my car, but this one right here, this is Jesus and his kittens. And instead of Jesus holding a lamb and holding a staff, he's got a cat toy and a little kitten in his arms. And I thought that this was just hilarious and super cool. So I just wanted to say thank you once more, Sherry, for sending your unique artwork to me. I certainly appreciate it. Now, Methods mentioned the posts. Yeah, there have been several new posts that have come out. I absolutely love the fact that we had that kind of, no silence. There was absolutely nothing from our favorite Anon. And then like clockwork on the 17th, he returns, and we've got plenty of good information to go over. So we are definitely going to be doing that. In our first hour, we're going to be having our friend Jr. Majewski. He is the Trump lawn sign guy. And I want to pull this up, because if you guys haven't seen this yet, it is something that you need to see. Now, if you haven't seen it, you've probably been living under a rock. But JR has gotten all kinds of press. He's been all over many different news channels, and he caused a little bit of controversy, because after they started talking to him and showing him on TV and in print, they realized that he was wearing a shirt with a Q on it. And they kind of freaked out about it.
Oops.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. But, great job, man. Any plane that goes over this dude's lawn, this guy's house, his entire state, it's very visible from the sky. And I want to say JR has done this all with his own money. And obviously that takes quite a bit of time to do. So we're about to bring JR in. He's going to tell us about this whole thing, because it's super cool. Obviously, he is one of the good guys. So please join me in welcoming our first special guest of the evening, J.R. Majewski. And J.R. is right there. J.R., your phone is sideways. You're going to have to unlock it. There we go. J.R., your phone is sideways, bud.
Uh-oh. They kicked me out of the lobby once.
There you go.
There we go.
Hey, now it's working.
Put me in safe driving mode, and then it kicked me back in. So,
well, listen, dude. First of all, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. Glad you're here, and great job on this lawn sign. This is one of the most visible elements of support that I've seen for President Trump, probably in the entire length of his presidency. I think you're the first person to ever do something on this scale.
There has been I think there was a gentleman in South Carolina that actually did something bigger, but he mowed a big Trump emblem in his yard with his lawnmower.
Oh, I think you're right.
He didn't add color, so it didn't count.
Well, the color is where you added your own personal flair. That is something special there. So I want to know how you go about doing something like this. Is it the same kind of paint that they use on football fields?
Yeah, so it's athletic field paint. I used the same thing last year. There's a local company in Cleveland, and they're about maybe an hour away. They supply, from what I understand, is 60%, like 50 or 60% of the market for high school and then collegiate colleges and universities all over the country. So got in contact with them, and had to do a little bit of bartering, and because they traditionally don't offer the service to civilians, normally it's through a company.
Right.
So I was lucky enough to be able to talk to them, since my order was so big. They were, and with COVID, this year.
Sure.
Last year was a little bit tougher, but since I was a returning customer, and then with COVID, the fact that there's no high school sports going on outside, it was a win-win for both of us. So
good stuff. And you've got quite the lot there too, by the way. Nice yard there. So what has the response been like from the people in your neighborhood, the people in your state? Has the president or anybody from his team reached out to you?
Well, so I've been talking to numerous individuals on the what they call the Trump team, or Team Trump. President Trump, when he saw this and saw me on Fox News, he sent a tweet and then a Facebook message. Same with Don Trump Jr. I've been speaking with numerous individuals in the Ohio House or Ohio Congress, particularly a gentleman by the name of Rob Weber. He's running for 9th District here. He's looking to unseat Marcy Kaptur, who's been in office since I was 4 years old, right? So I'm looking to help him out. He's a he's a West Point grad, pro Second Amendment. Just he knows what he's talking about. So
good.
Looking to help him out a little bit, and the PAC, the Patriots of America PAC, they've actually, I don't know if I can say this, but I'm just going to say it because whatever. They've asked me to be their first ambassador, so they should be launching their website here in the next day or so. So they asked me to do that, and I'm going to do that for free. They're really aiming at increasing voter registration. Their goal is 50,000 by November. And they're taking a specific focus on NASCAR. They actually own the 32 car, which has President Trump's logo and presidential campaign slogan and everything on it. So
sweet, good stuff. Now, I would imagine that an undertaking like this, I mean, it's no small feat. I mean, you've got a full-time job, I'm assuming. So, I mean, how did you find the time to do this? How long did this take?
It took me about a week to actually paint. The prep work I did on my own. I did it on a couple different programs. I actually had an engineer that worked for me, help me out. But essentially, I took the Trump flag or banner, and I just did a 1 by 1 inch grid and scaled it. And then I took that and transformed that into a 1 foot by 1 foot grid. Mm-hmm. And then I did what, I actually had wood around the perimeter, and then I ran stringers. So I had a 1 foot by 1 foot grid through the whole thing, which was a pain in the butt. But
well, yeah, I mean, it's very precise. So you did a great job.
No, it looks great. But let me ask you, JR, like as you were working on it, did you have neighbors stop by and say, what are you doing?
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of them, since I did the flag, I did the flag last year. A lot of them knew I was going to do something. I always do something for Independence Day, particularly, but last year I did something for Halloween, and so yeah, they were very interested in to see what I was doing. And this neighborhood that I live in, it's predominantly it's a lot of people that come here in the summer, and it's right on the lake. So as you see this elderly lady here, she's enjoying her evening on a little golf cart cruise.
I was going to say, I saw another golf cart behind you. That's it.
Yeah, they're all over the place. So this looks like I would say a Florida resort area in the summer. And from 15-year-old kids to 80-year-old neighbors riding around their golf carts. So yeah, they stopped any chance they get and wanted to talk. But it's kind of like anything else you do. The only time you don't want to talk to your neighbors is when you're out doing something.
Sure, of course.
That's right.
What has the response been overall? I mean, clearly, everybody in the audience here is psyched up about this. But I mean, have you had positive responses from people there in Ohio?
Yeah, I mean, it's been very, very positive. The neighborhood likes it. I had a big Independence Day party like I do every year. 30, 40 people are here. A couple folks that I'm friends with. They don't support President Trump. Well, I'd say it's not that they don't support President Trump. They don't like President Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But they may not support Biden. But one thing that I can control, I'm not going to change my political affiliation, my beliefs, and my principles to satisfy a friend. Mm-hmm. But what I can do is develop a comforting environment. Right? So when they came here, before they came here, I told them what I was doing, and I didn't want them to be surprised. What didn't really need any elaboration because I have really good relationships with my friends, and I'm an all-around nice guy. So they didn't feel like they were coming into an environment of conflict. So
good.
Actually turned out pretty well. And there's a lot of dialogue, and over a couple couple of beers and a couple of games of cornhole and yard darts and all the other stuff the guys were playing, I would wager to say a few people may have changed their ideology on who they're going to vote for this year. So
that's awesome. I love to hear that. I mean, because clearly that's missing from the America today. So good on you.
Definitely.
Right. And they want, obviously, with this whole mask stuff and you're not allowed to be outside and meet in big groups and all that, they don't want that kind of dialogue to happen. So it's always great to hear when those situations occur because you're willing to talk. They might be coming from a different point of view, and they might leave like with a seed planted, and they might be changing their mind because you could vote privately. People don't have to know what you vote. And then I actually had seen a CNN article. I think it was CNN. It was earlier this week saying like the big boogeyman of the election is going to be the secret Trump supporters.
Yeah.
So it's always good to hear about that.
So,
and I think like you were saying, that's one thing that is missing from our social context right now is, we're such a superficial society. We have big tech that tells us everything, by the flick of a thumb, and people want answers immediately. They don't have the tolerance, the patience, or the attention span to wait. And if a gentleman wants to fix his sink, he Googles how to do it, and next thing you know, he's a plumber and he's offering to fix the neighbor's sink, and then he floods the house, right? And then he blames it on Google or somebody else, when the reality of it is you should have hired the professionals because those people are trained for it. But that spreads throughout our social interactions, right? And when we have conversations with people, we fail to have dialogue in the with the intent to if you disagree, do so in a manner where you're not disagreeable.
Right.
Just treat people right. You know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's
not
one of the
everybody
biggest
can
things.
be as smart as us. They're not all gonna vote for President Trump. Right. Where there's a yin and yang, light and dark. I mean, we just happen to be the smart people, or we carry the torch. We got to teach these folks.
That's right. You know, you never know. I mean, somebody could have never had the opportunity to gain the knowledge. So they're in the dark, and it's up to us, in my opinion, to educate them on that stuff. This is one of the biggest things I always harp on. I tell people to be kind to people on social media because we have to be ambassadors for the light. We have to show these people that this really is the right way to go about it. We got to save our country. We got to save our future and for our children. And if we're just constantly attacking each other because we have different views and we can't have a structured and a coherent dialogue to offer arguments as to why we are right in the way that we think, then people are never going to come over to this side, and they're just going to continue to have Trump derangement syndrome. It's a sad, sad thing.
And the greatest weapon of human mankind is the written and spoken language.
Absolutely.
By far.
Yeah.
One could say fire, but
that's number two.
I'll say language.
Well, so how much does something like this cost you every time you do a new application?
Well, can you guys hear a lot of background stuff here?
No, it's not too bad.
Okay. My neighbor decided to have a little party. So it cost me, Greenfield, $3,000. That doesn't include my labor, and I'm pretty expensive labor. So if I was to throw that in, it would be astronomical. So on the repaint, it cost me just a little under $1,200 for the new paint. So the way I figure it, it's going to consistently be about $3,000 per application.
And how often,
even though I'll use less paint. So.
How often do you have to reapply?
I'm thinking every 2 weeks. Initially I was thinking every week, but now I'm thinking every 2 weeks. See, the thing is with this paint is it has a fertilizer in it, right? So anytime I get any kind of moisture in the air, any rain, it just, the grass just shoots up. So it's a good and a bad. It's a good thing to protect my lawn, but it's a bad thing for the message and the sustainment of the message, because it pumps my yard full of steroids.
Right.
Well, obviously, I brought that up because, you're going to have to continue to pay for this to keep it going until the election. That's your intention, is to keep it until President Trump is reelected?
Yeah, I would love to. We get a pretty hard fall here, so if we get, we get a lot, the leaves start shedding from the trees, that could be a challenge. So there's just a lot of money that I have to consider here, and I'm a qualified project manager professional by trade and by education. So when it comes to estimating and looking at jobs, I do this for a living in the nuclear industry. So maintaining a yard is something I can do in my sleep. So right. I had a couple estimates that I worked up, shared them online, and few people gave me hell thinking that I had some get rich quick scheme. But when I showed them the actual breakdown and the itemization of the expenses, their thoughts changed pretty quickly. Because I'm not going to be out here. I'm too old. I'm slightly overweight, and I have a job, so I can't be out here painting every week as much as I would love to.
Right on. So you've got the GoFundMe up. I am going to go ahead and show that on screen and then share the link as well. So if you guys, anybody in the audience wants to help out JR and keep this Trump lawn flag alive until the election, then you can go ahead and help out. Now, you've gotten quite a bit of press throughout all forms of national and local media. And I see you're wearing the Q shirt, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Now, somebody also mentioned in the chat that your pool in your backyard looks like a Q. Is that on purpose as well, or did that just happenstance?
I think we'll leave the speculation out there because I like it.
Got to keep the mystery.
Yeah. Chef never tells his recipe.
Right.
There you go.
Now, people are also asking if they can see the lawn, and because of the so JR made this video with his drone, and because of the song that's in it, I can't play it because otherwise they'll copyright me. So I am showing this on the screen. You guys can see this is a beautiful big job To be able to put that much time, effort, and funding into putting this together, JR, I just wanted to commend you for that, because it is a really, really great job. And it shows your commitment to the movement and to President Trump. So I'm very happy that his team is reaching out to you, because it's well worth it.
Yeah, there's more to come. I think, the Q shirt that I wore the first day, I got a couple buddies in my close network. One, won't say his name, but good close friend of mine. He's a former Navy SEAL, and he's really in touch with the intel community. And I was having some problems with Antifa and the others when Fox and Friends aired my video on Saturday. And he called me up and said, "Hey, I feel bad for you, your face," because I'm a conservative guy. I'm not out throwing my political beliefs anywhere.
Right.
And he said, if you really want to keep these guys off you, let my wife make you a Q shirt. Wear it on Fox. And I said, well, if I wear it, they're not going to let me wear it. Now, if you noticed the video on Fox and Friends, there's a Trump 2020 badge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one of the Team Trump folks came to me, and I can't say they intentionally did this, but they went to pin it on me, and at like the last second, I popped it off and put it up above.
Mm-hmm.
And so my buddy said, if you wear this shirt, because I wasn't necessarily in touch with the community. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I have this close network of friends. We all talk, right? I see the things. I do my own due diligence, but I wasn't necessarily on Twitter or anything. I was on Twitter, but not active. And he told me, he said, if you represent the movement and the folks see you, they're going to protect you online. And
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, really, that'll happen. He said, I guarantee you. And now this guy, like I said, really good friend of mine, trust him with my life. And I slapped that Q shirt on. His wife made me one with a Cricut machine, and it's good to go. And she made this. I got about 7 more in the house. So anytime I get a chance, I'm throwing them on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want to say he was 100% correct. This is a very tight-knit group of people. We all know that we're working towards the same thing. And, where we go one, we go all. It's not just words. So very sweet. Awesome. Well, JR, I myself, I am very happy to have you here. I will say that the audience is in agreement as well. Everybody is very impressed with what you did. They love it. Lots of other Ohioans in the audience. So I just want to say, guys, if you want to get in touch with JR, I left all of his information in the description. You've got the GoFundMe, you've got his Twitter account, and you've got an email address too. Is there anything else that you want to tell people or have them take note of?
No, I think the biggest thing for me is, help embody my voice. Obviously, a guy that does something like this, I mean, I'm in it to win it, right? I'm funding this next paint on my own. So this is all coming out of my pocket. This is just what I believe in. Fame, news, media, what have you, that doesn't mean anything to me. I'll paint this thing just because it makes me sit in my lazy boy at night with a smile on my face knowing somebody doesn't like it. So I'll keep doing this. I'll keep fighting the cause. You guys can help me, by extending and acting as a conduit to getting me in front of the right people. Guide me. If you see me on the internet, on Twitter or on social media, if I step out of the lanes, shoot me a private message. I'll get right back into it. Don't shy away from constructive criticism whatsoever. But the biggest thing is help me expand the audience for the better good.
All right, dude. Well, thank you once again, JR, for being here. I really appreciate it. And let me know. I mean, we're already in touch with each other. So you got about...
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Hey, no problem, man. You got about 6,800 followers on Twitter right now. So I'm hoping to see it jump after the show tonight.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
All right, brother. Thank you very much once again. And I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right,
Thank you,
peace.
everyone.
See you, JR.
See you guys.
Bye-bye. Awesome. He's such a cool guy. Such a good guy.
Right. Yeah. We were talking before the show when after we chatted with him a little bit about how cool it is that we get to meet these people that otherwise we wouldn't have. And not necessarily because of, Q and whatever, but just this movement itself that's really pushing towards the goal of patriotism. Mm-hmm. We start, connecting with, minds that, think the same for the most part. And you end up meeting somebody that you're like, man, I would hang out with him regularly. Mm-hmm. And he's definitely one of them. So shout out to you, JR, and thank you for giving us the time,
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, he's very busy. He has been all over the news ever since this thing broke. So I was glad that we were able to get him to stop by, as it's going on, and I hope that his GoFundMe is successful because I had no idea how much that cost every time that he does it. That's insane. If he can keep it up, it's only going to, cost a couple $1,000s every 2 weeks. So, man, it's a big deal. It's a very, very big deal, Somebody's asking if JR has a parlor. Honestly, Kirsten, I don't know if he has a parlor. He only just got on Twitter, or he only just started this public Twitter account once everything broke. So I'm in touch with JR, and if he does have a parlor account, I'll make sure to go ahead and share it. But in the meantime, make sure you go and follow his Twitter so that you can keep abreast of all of the announcements that are coming out. So let's go ahead and shift methods over to the new posts from our favorite Anon. Now, there have been quite a few since he popped back up on the 17th. Now, I would say that the overwhelming majority of the posts on the 17th were in regards to the hoax behind CV-19. Some stuff that we've all definitely been aware of for quite some time. But my main question is, when are the other side, when are these people going to start waking up and realizing what's going on? What do you think it's going to take, Methods? Do you think it's going to take the defunding of the CDC? I think I saw that over the weekend, that President Trump is looking to actually defund the CDC.
I think it's going to, but we have to always remind ourselves that we're not going to win everybody over. Right. We would love to see that the epic, third act of the movie of this, at least this Kung Flu movie, that takes us in that direction to where everybody wakes up and it's all, peaceful and great. But we're not going to have that because of the brainwashing and the devout hatred and, the want to be ignorant. Mm-hmm. Ignorance is bliss type stuff. I do think that we're going to have some kind of exposure happening, which I think they were laying the groundwork with how hard they've been pressing on China. Mm-hmm. With, Pompeo coming out, Ray coming out, which is another discussion I guess we'll get into, having them come out and say things and stuff, and Barr too, about how China is this corrupt. They're laying the groundwork. Because if it does get exposed that essentially the deep state here in this country were connected with China on allowing this to occur, they were working together. If they were to have one major arrest of catching somebody, doing that, and they were a Feinstein or somebody, it would really paint the picture. But we have to always accept that there's going to be people that choose not to believe because they think we're all wrong anyways.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the main gripes of, and it's valid, one of the main gripes of people in the movement, and even people who don't believe in this stuff, is the fact that there haven't been any significant movement on arrests, that people are still walking around. And I don't think there's a single person watching or reading these posts who doesn't want that to happen as soon as possible. This is definitely something that I hear a lot. If only this were to happen, and then it would wake people up. We've got to see somebody getting in trouble for this stuff. And, this is skipping ahead in the posts, but this morning, that interview that Mark Meadows on Maria Bartiromo's show, that little bit at the end, stating that this has gone on long enough and it's time to see some indictments, or it's time to see some arrests. People have got to go to jail. I absolutely agree with him. I'm a very patient person. I know you're a very patient person. We have a unique way of looking at this. But, unfortunately, there's a large portion of the American public who they can't wrap their head around the fact that because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that it's not going to happen in the first place. They think that it's over. It's already over. We're getting so close to the election, but we still have the fruits of the John Durham investigation to be made public. And, unfortunately, it hasn't come out yet because of the massive scope and scale of the treasonous behavior that happened to not only President Trump, but the American people by its own government. We can't rush something like that. We can't make that happen any faster than it possibly can. I don't know exactly how many people John Durham has working for him, not only in the DOJ, but in the FBI. But even with all of those people that he has, I would imagine that they're pulling these threads, and this sweater just continues to unravel. Every time they turn over a stone, they probably find another set of criminal acts that have been committed.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and it's hard, I guess, for people like you and I. It's probably been one of the hardest things that we've had to go through the last few years. Is trying to not necessarily explain away or just be all team Q on what Q says. Say, hey, it's coming and all that. It's just we genuinely feel that way, and we try to find different ways to kind of explain that. Because I personally enjoyed the last few years. I mean, life before all this to me is an alternative I wouldn't prefer to go back to. I liked the camaraderie. I like the patriotism. I like seeing people working together on the internet and connecting with each other. Yeah, I do still to this day. It's not changed. Even though Meadow said everything that we've been wanting to, we have been saying for years, everybody in the chat even. To me, we're going to have that moment, and it's going to be a pre-arrest, during arrest, and then post-arrest kind of life. Right. And I look forward to the post-arrest because it kind of just takes away that, the metaphorical monkey on our back that we have this going on is the false hope. It's like the number one shill narrative that we've got right now. Or even just, the devil's advocate in everybody's head is like, well, what if it's all just that bad and corrupt? Well, I don't want to accept that life. I want to keep fighting and going forward. So I do agree that there is going to be something coming out of it, but I think it's going to be phases. And not just because Q is referred to it as, the first set of indictments. I mean, you would have to. There's no way you can do it at that massive scale, like the thread being pulled, like you're talking about. There's crimes that go on that none of us have ever covered. I guarantee it, that we just had never known about it.
Absolutely. Now, my mom made a great point. She said, where did it go? Mom, where'd your comment go? It was so good. Oh, she said, we're so used about reading about history after it's already happened. We're in the middle of one of the largest history-making things ever in the history of our country. This is the scandal to end all scandals. And if it was as easy as one person breaking a law or, just, one element of a government that was corrupt, then it probably would have already been taken down. But, I mean, we're talking about the swamp. The scale is off the charts. That's why we are seeing people at the local levels. They have to start at the bottom and work their way up. Otherwise, there's no way that they're going to be able to do it successfully, because then all of those big wig people up at the top, they're just going to go ahead and put their thumb down and stop any investigation, stop any arrests, stop any prosecution. What we just had here in Illinois. Now, Illinois is important because it's the former home state of the last resident of the White House, Barry Obama. The current Illinois Speaker, Michael Madigan, he's connected directly to Barack, and his mentor, Bill Ayers, as well as Andrew Weissman, the pit bull from the Mueller investigation. Michael Madigan is connected to all of these guys, and he's got a history of scandals that followed him throughout his entire career. Well, right now, he is wrapped up in something like a $200 million bribery scandal with Com Edison in Illinois. And the feds have, did they just arrest him, or did they just indict him? I lost the point in the article, but essentially,
I don't think he's been charged yet, but there's such a deep state, like swamp in Illinois alone. Yeah. So just to have, once again, you're pulling a thread because there's conversations about RICO when it comes to this. That's a massive thing that can essentially bring, Illinois to its knees and have to have the government kind of take over and fix it. Because it's that way. It's kind of the argument of the too big to fail when it comes to these big companies. That's what we're talking about here when it comes to the levels of corruption that was just allowed to go on. It was the normal. And then you insert Trump. But let me just real quick before you move on, Red Pill, the idea that the whole concern about are we going to get arrested, are we going to see justice and all that stuff. I pay attention to the actions of the other side a lot when it comes to these Democrats. Yep. And to me, it's like, why can't they, if they haven't done anything wrong, why can't they just try their best to win in this election, even though they know that Trump's got the lead? And even if not, he's gone in 4 years. And we all discuss on who would be the one that could carry the torch, because there's nobody like Trump, so why not just plan that far ahead? They've been planning out some of these schemes for decades. Why not plan one out for 8 years and then take back over and just roll back everything Trump did, unless you have something to hide. And if the corruption is that bad and it can be decimated, then why would they go ahead and try to impeach him and remove him? Why? What's the point?
Yeah.
They started from like before he was even elected.
Absolutely.
So yeah, man, go ahead.
I mean, they've been working nonstop. They've been working overtime. They want to do everything within their power to try to remove him. I am confident. I have faith that it's not going to work. I have faith that John Durham is going to deliver. I have faith that we are finally at that moment in history where things are going to change in our country. And I've said it before, if I'm wrong, I will be the first person to admit it. But I have to be honest, I do not believe that I'm wrong. I have 100% faith in my convictions and of what the outcome is going to be from everything that we've been a part of over the last couple of years. So it was actually his office has been subpoenaed, but this is the first step in criminal indictments that are going to be coming for Madigan. And, I believe this is probably going to implicate Pritzker. I know that we still have information that's supposed to be coming out from Rod Blagojevich, but I would say that the reason we haven't seen anything with regard to that yet is because, of course, they're not going to comment on any ongoing criminal investigations. Rod Blagojevich is going to use the information that he has in regards to the swamp that is Illinois politics, and he's going to be handing that stuff over to the DOJ. For all we know, this scandal that's implicating House Speaker in Illinois, Michael Madigan, this could be information that was initially handed over by Rod Blagojevich. So
that's a great point, man. I didn't even think about that. Like the timing of that is because he would have known. He would have known all about that.
Yeah, he would have had his fingers in it too. So what basically Com Edison is going to be paying a $200 million fine as part of a deferred prosecution agreement to end the federal probe, admitting it sought to influence public official A, identified as the Speaker of the Illinois House of Representatives without using Madigan's name, by arranging his allies and people who perform political work for him to obtain jobs, contracts, and payments with Com Edison between 2011 and 2019. So Com Edison faces a single charge of bribery. Madigan has not been charged yet, but I would be looking to see that happen. Now, Governor Pritzker has already requested that Madigan resign. I think it'll be interesting to see what he does in the coming days and weeks to see if he's going to go ahead and take responsibility for this stuff. I mean, clearly, if you can go to a website called Corruptionopedia. Where is that? I lost the website, but Corruptionopedia has just a list of bad behavior from Michael Madigan. Now, again, with his connections to both Bill Ayers, Andrew Weissman, and Barack Obama, if he is charged with a crime, and I would imagine that would be the smart thing for the Department of Justice to do, charge him with a crime, and then they can use that to leverage to get more information. I mean, Barack Obama's not president anymore. This guy doesn't have anything to be afraid of in terms of that. I mean, unless the DOJ doesn't handle him properly. But, it's one of those things we got to see. We are reporting this as soon as it's basically breaking. Now, one thing that has come out, Methods, and we haven't really discussed this before, but I thought that it was pretty important. Remember last summer, everybody was just extremely upset because of what happened to the billionaire Jeffrey. They were saying that there was, no possibility of justice being served or closure for the victims because he was the ringleader. It's kind of emerging that he wasn't necessarily the ringleader. It actually looks like it's more likely that Ghislaine Maxwell was actually running Jeffrey himself. And then even above and beyond that, we're looking at probably Les Wexner as being even higher than Jeffrey or Ghislaine. And Wexner is somebody who's been pointed out specifically by our favorite Anon on a number of occasions.
Right. I mean, I've seen a lot of the discussions. You had sent me that documentary that I was watching, and it just, it really made me think for a while.
Yeah.
Because, since Ghislaine is so connected, obviously with what was going on with her father and then him mysteriously falling off a boat or whatever, it's definitely sketchy because then you see Epstein come into her life. So whether it's kind of like a protection type thing / handler situation from Ghislaine over, and then you start really hearing what was going on around, allowing Les Wexner to get away with what he did. I was listening to that interview with one of the victims, and she was saying that when she had, they targeted her. She was living in the house, Ghislaine and Epstein, that is, in one of Les Wexner's properties. And she called the sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department said, oh, well, we already have a contract to protect that property. There are sheriffs, there are police there, but they never came. Mm-hmm. They never came at all. And it ended up being that her own father, the victim's father, had to come pick her up. But the fact that you call the sheriff and said, hey, this was just happening to me as a young female, and they're like, yeah, we'll be there, and they get off, you're fine, and then nothing happens.
Yeah. How
controlled and deep does that go? But to that point, we're talking about so much money and so much corruption with this connected amount of people. And then you've got the whole surveillance and bribery aspect, the whole idea that anywhere Epstein had, connection with Les Wexner and his properties, there was, at least accusations by the victims that there were pinhole cameras everywhere. They had absolutely everything filmed, everything was going on, and they weren't hiding it. There, at least to the people that were on the inside there. So that's what was the point of that? And they would say, one of the victims said that Epstein would always brag about or say that Les Wexner keeps all of this information. He kept it, all of those recordings. So it goes even further. And then, there, of course, the Moss stuff. I'm not going to say another word that's going to get us in trouble.
State actors.
Right. This is getting into essentially the briberies by foreign nations into people that became into positions of power in this government and across many governments in many countries. And that's how big of a scale this is, because who got into positions at what time, and then you have to investigate what decisions they made at certain times. When did their bank accounts start growing? And then that gets into money trails in different countries. It's such to me, a lot of people might be saying, what's taking Durham so long, or what's taking Barr so long in some of these investigations? To me, it's just like, I just want to pat them on the back and say, thank you for even trying, because it's so big. And to have that kind of weight on your shoulders, to me, this is going to be, the best word to use is biblical.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is the investigation of the century. And, within that investigation, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other investigations. There's a lot of work to do. I commend them on everything they're doing. Now, many people have mentioned Ray. You mentioned Ray, and I believe, did Ray pop up in the posts earlier today?
Yeah, go up to...
let
me look.
Ray is a sleeper, future marker. Swamp runs deep. We've got a tweet here from Angel Gotti, it looks like. And the head of the FBI, Christopher Wray, has hired a new general counsel named Jason Jones, who is a partner of Rod Rosenstein and the law firm King and Spalding, which also employs Sally Yates. Hashtag FBI, hashtag Deep State. And then we've got the post, which was originally made back July 29th of 2019. And our favorite Anon says, the swamp runs deep. Version 2, change we can believe in. Version 2, change we can believe in. Now, is that pointing to a version 2 of Christopher Wray? Is that changing to referring to a version 2 of the swamp itself?
Well, anytime we've seen V2, when at least in this reference, has been to like the Trump administration version 2.0.
Yeah.
And so at my first reading of this, and the chat can let us know, give us your opinion, because I know a lot of people haven't trusted Ray, even with our favorite not saying that. Yeah. The swamp runs deep, version 2, change we can believe in. To me, I took it as, okay, maybe Ray, or at least who's pulling strings on Ray, is the change we could believe in. It's still tied to the old administration with Obama. So we're going to get a change in the version 2. And I've at least believed that Ray, if he is on the good side, has been a placeholder, making sure everything is getting fixed, like basically doing the paperwork to fix what Comey was doing.
Right.
And, everybody before that, Mueller, because it's been a mess for a while. And at least kind of being like that person that comes in and just fixes things on a paperwork side, and then steps away, and then we're going to get somebody, cough, cough, Grinnell, cough, to come in and be the real FBI director. But when I read this, I'm not surprised. I don't know. I have no problem disagreeing with our favorite Anon. And yes, Chad, I just said that. To me, I don't know if we can trust Ray. And I'm not trying to sway people's opinions, but maybe I can accept the fact that Ray might have changed his mind and went black hat during this, since that was said. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I have always thought that when we hear trust Ray, trust Sessions, who trust, Kansas, whoever it is, I've been very vocal about the idea that President Trump keeps his friends close and his enemies closer. He has useful idiots in the same way that the left has useful idiots. They will take people, they will rile them up, and then they will use them to whatever ends they need to have, things done socially with engineering of our society. President Trump has used so many people who, at the time, I think they thought that they were getting one over on the president. But look at what he did with John Bolton. Okay, he put John Bolton in there as his national security advisor. I think that let everybody on the left and all the war hawks kind of take a step back, and they're like, well, as long as John Bolton's in there, we've got nothing to worry about. President Trump never took a single word of advice from John Bolton, okay? He was just in there as a placeholder, and I believe that Christopher Wray has done what you said, cleaning up the FBI at a base level on paper, and making sure that we put some people in there that can be trusted and that are interested in the return of law and order. But I don't think by any means that we are supposed to take Christopher Wray at face value and trust whatever he's going to do or whatever he's going to say. He was clearly put in there to do a job for a certain reason, most likely for reasons that we are not privy to. We don't understand 100% why President Trump and his administration decided to use Christopher Wray. But I can say that I do trust the president. I trust his instincts and I trust his decisions. And for whatever reason, he decided to have Christopher Wray. And our favorite Anon said that we're supposed to trust Wray. I'm going to trust Wray until we're shown that we cannot trust Wray, because the truth of the matter is, he has done some good things to reform the FBI since he's been put into that position.
Right, and I can agree. And Rook Castle, friend out there in the chat, says, I really want to like Wray. And I do too. I really do want to appreciate any of the work he's doing. Now, I do want to remind people who the number one argument is Wray's been doing nothing. He's just a potted plant in the FBI, not getting anything done. Well, it has came out and been explained not just by the FBI, but by others. I think even Barr might have said it, that a lot of the reason why these documents aren't coming out till now is because they were under the purview of the Durham investigation and they couldn't be released publicly. I know that we've said this on this channel a bunch. Plenty of other people have been saying it, but the fact that they were coming out and saying, hey, anytime that documents need to be out in the public and they're not under that purview and they get requested, they're coming out to the public. So there is kind of an organized release that you could think of over the last several months of information that if Wray was really like a Dan Coates, then we wouldn't be getting that. We would be getting a removed Wray, right? If it would, because of how organized this is. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. And that's the kind of the beauty of, I don't like watching movies and knowing the ending.
No, totally.
I'm all right with being like, okay, let me keep an eye on Wray. We did this with Lindsey Graham. We did this with Rod Rosenstein. We did this with Mueller. Everybody questioned. I remember the arguments that Mueller was the white hat and was working the entire time to help the president, and Rod Rosenstein too, that snake. And right. That's fine. That's, to me, if anything, it's been the beauty of the conversation that we've had for years. And so once again, I'm just keeping my eye on Wray.
No, me too. Real quick, I just need to say thank you to Natural Lady 17. She says, winter is coming. Bless you, brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I am also a fan of Game of Thrones. And then Dale, he says, still loving the show, brother. Thank you very much, Dale, and Natural Lady 17. Also, Isabella, she says, would be nice to have accountability with fake news. Absolutely. I think that is something that is going to come. There's no way around it. They're going to have some accountability. They're going to have to, at some point, admit that they've been lying this entire time. I don't know what that looks like. I'm not going to lie. But I think it's something that we need, not only so that we can be assured that the information that we're receiving is not completely totally fabricated like it has been for a long time, but for the healing of our country. To a great degree, the fake news media and the junk that they push out has a lot to do with the division that we see in our country right now.
I totally agree with that, but in turn, like, we do need a fixed media in this situation, the MSM, because of the people that aren't awake yet and are buying that narrative. I can completely agree with that. But at least on the Patriot side, the MAGA side, not just necessarily Q or, even Trump, just wanting to be good Americans, we can always bank on the media to lie. So we kind of just get it in a different way. And think about people like Scott, our buddy Woke Societies that I'll be doing the show with here in the next few weeks. he believed the media for the most part. And it took the media lying so much and then him just listening and looking for himself. And he's like, okay, wait a second, I'm being lied to. And then he fell down the rabbit hole. And now he's got a channel that's about 100,000 subscribers pushing the same information we're all doing. So I get it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, EO2 Dave, he says over 30,000 plus new sealed indictments. I'm only seeing approximately 10,000 since the last time I looked. It doesn't mean that there's 30,000 since the last time you looked, but currently we're at 182,771, 21,381 that have been unsealed, and 409,152 non-sealed indictments. All of those numbers still off the charts, so looking good. Now, we also had a Zero Delta. POTUS posted 3 seconds after our favorite Anon posted about Ray, and the content of POTUS's tweet, so we catch Obama and Biden, not to even mention the rest of their crew, spying on my campaign, and nothing happens? I hope not. If it were the other way around, 50 years for treason. Never forget. And then somebody made a meme that says, 3 seconds, come on, Dan, get it together, Dan Scavino.
It's so funny, though, because, I mean, Scavino works so hard, and for him to become a meme,
yes,
it is kind of beautiful. He needs to be a part of it because we all love him. Yes. I've never heard one complaint about Scavino.
Dan is he's very dedicated to the president. He's very dedicated to the mission, and I'm hoping at some point Dan is going to be able to talk about all this publicly. Now we also had a new drop from Catherine Herridge, newly declassified FISA information. Lindsey Graham said the system was blinking red over the Steele dossier in early 2017, but it was used twice more to renew surveillance warrants on Carter Page. In his December report, IG Horowitz wrote the dossier's source made statements inconsistent with multiple sections of the Steele reports, including some that were relied upon in the FISA applications. Then just before the final FISA of June 2017, FBI lawyer apparently blew through another stop sign when he altered an email to omit Page's prior relationship with the U.S. Intel Agency, all things we're familiar with. Revealing that relationship would have likely gone a long way to explain Page's Russia contacts. IG Horowitz found dossier played a central and essential role in FBI decision to surveil Page. At what level and who made the call to blow through these warnings? Reread Horowitz XI plus VI. Let me pull that up so I can get a look at that. Now, somebody sent me a message saying that Catherine Herridge's pen points to someone named Mercer, and then Secretary of State Pompeo has recently been posting about his new puppy named Mercer.
Right, it's Mercer's on the pen.
Oh, the pen is Mercer. Okay,
right, and we know that Mercer was playing around with the Winnie the Pooh, toy recently, so maybe there's a tie to China when it comes to, because if you look at the tip of the pen, it touches right on Crossfire Hurricane Team. So I haven't dug fully and made any connections to see what I can at least count out, but to me, it's pointing directly to that. But I do want to remind everybody, if we're getting these documents now, you can already assume Durham has already taken this into consideration, filed how necessary, and has moved on past it. So all this Durham has already gone through if we are now getting it.
That's right.
I mean, obviously still using it, but it is what it is. Now, I know we've only got 5 or 6 minutes before we've got our buddy Christopher Wright coming on. Just want to remind everybody, we've got 5,000 people here hanging out with us. We really do appreciate it. 1.9 thousand likes. If you guys don't mind turning that thumb blue, that would be great. And thank you guys for hitting us up on Cash App and PayPal. And I also have to say this. Apparently, our friend Rick Castle saying here in the chat that today is Baby Yoda's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Baby Yoda. That's awesome.
Happy birthday. Everybody put a 17 in the chat to tell him happy birthday.
17 for Baby Yoda. All right, so I want to tell you my takeaway from this. So the segment of this document that Herridge's pen is pointing at is specifically in relation to Kevin Kleinsmith. Now, to your point, this information is being made public because it's no longer part of an ongoing criminal investigation. They've already used it, and they've probably, they could have done something behind the scenes and have had Kevin Kleinsmith agree to perhaps testify against other people or join the investigation. So I think it's probably about Kevin Kleinsmith. Kevin Kleinsmith, obviously committed a crime when he altered that email and hid Carter Page's previous associations with both the FBI and the clowns in America. Kevin Kleinsmith would be an easy one to go ahead and get an indictment on and prosecute and release the information prior to the election. So we're going to have to wait and see how that one plays out. But we also have, I also got a donation from Gaffer Anon. He says, staying comfy, no Cuomo. No Cuomo, brother. Love you. Appreciate you there. All right, well, so we have one long post.
Yeah, let's knock that out real quick.
Yeah. All right, so this post it starts out and it says, The Trilogy, Movie 1, full. The Start, Plot. How the intelligence apparatus, State Department, and Department of Justice of the United States, in a joint effort with our ex-primary foreign allies and other covert assets, as directed by Hussein, White House, in coordination with HRC, colluded and conspired to rig the presidential election of 2016 in an effort to install HRC, frame POTUS, projection, create emergency contingencies regarding installation of safeguards and firewalls to prevent exposure or continuation of presidency should counter fail to ensure operators, actors, agents of power, past and present, remain in control, and use sources, covert assets of the fake news media to carry out X-frame barrage of strategic, coordinated, guided attacks designed to divide, cover, shelter, justify impeachment, removal in effort to regain control, and prevent public awareness of illegal, criminal, treasonous acts. You can't put it in any plainer language. And I just want you to take that entire statement in and soak it up, because this is what we're talking about here. This is the exact playbook of what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it. And this is going to be the subject of the John Durham investigation. It is the biggest political scandal in the history of this country. Now, next, it continues. Movie 1 through 3, full list, coming soon to a theater near you. Movie 3 to be announced. Enjoy the show. And this is obviously a repost, and it says August 19th, 2018, and then it says August. So the original date of this post, I honestly do believe that the John Durham investigation is going to be completed by August. And I think that that's what we need to be looking for. If it doesn't happen, man, I think that they're going to miss a tremendous opportunity to get this wrapped up. It needs to be wrapped up prior to the election, because if it isn't, and if we've got, fully half of America going into the ballot box or just filling that crap out at home, I got a text message from the Bureau of Elections today telling me that I can request a paper ballot and vote from home, saying it's safe. There's nothing to worry about.
Sure.
But this has to happen, okay? I mean, there's just no two ways about it. I know that POTUS and his administration, the people who are loyal to this country and to him, they understand the gravity of this. And John Durham, must be fully aware. Now, there was also another article that came out in the Daily Mail before anybody rolls their eyes. But it came out and stated that, John Durham is looking to have this completed by the end of the summer. That would be August. Once you get into September, then you're looking at fall. But this is something that must happen. We have to have this take place because these people need to go down. They must pay for their crimes. We have to heal as a nation. And if we can do that, to a degree before the election, it's going to be much, much better than going in and, taking a risk to see if President Trump is going to win and if a Joe Biden or somebody else gets in there, if they're going to allow this investigation to continue. Because the fact of the matter is there's zero probability that they will allow this investigation to continue.
Yep, I totally agree with everything you said. I just wanted to tell, as far as that plot on that screen cap on the post 4599, that's your cheat sheet. If you're looking to explain some of this stuff, go through, read it. Make sure you understand every point on it. Reach out to your friends, people in this movement to help you decode that down, make some notes. That right there is one of your best explainers when it comes to what we're going to be starting with and all this information coming out. But the only thing I will not disagree with what Red Pill said, I will say, I don't think Durham's going to wrap up everything by August. August. I think that it's going to be more so, and I know you meant probably like we're going to see action by then.
That's
but
what
Durham,
I meant,
yeah. Durham's going to have a lot of work to do over time. And we don't know who else is going to be put over, you know, other investigations that are going to outlive what Durham's doing. They keep saying Durham report, but I don't really see it as a report. He's going to have to report why he's doing the actions that he does. And I do agree with you not to do the date fairy stuff, but I do really believe that we're going to see some things pop off in August.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the fact of the matter is people are going to be reporting on what Durham does, but prosecutors do not write reports. They send indictments and they prosecute cases. So that's what we're looking for with John Durham. Now, before we bring Chris in, I just want to say thank you to Carol. Last night sent a donation, also to Darcy. Those were both on PayPal. Thank you both for those. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for the support. All right, so please join us in welcoming our guest for the evening, Christopher Wright. Let me just get his information pulled up here, and we will bring in everyone's favorite conservative in New York. Christopher.
Yours truly.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you for reaching out to me and bringing me on. I'm glad to support Patriots.
Yeah, man, I have to tell you, the day that Methods told me that, well, he sent me your tweet, and I had literally just seen it, and I was like, we got to get a hold of this guy. Like, he is awesome. Because I was watching your videos on YouTube, and then he sent me over a tweet, and he said, you know, hey, I already reached out to Christopher Wright, and I was like, perfect timing, dude. Oh, wait, you're going to have to mute the stream in the background.
Yeah, hold on. 1 second, guys.
No problem.
All right, let me see here. Let me sign out. I'm going to sign out and sign back in again. I apologize.
Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
No worries.
It always happens. But yeah, I mean, the cool thing is I came across that clip of him, and I was just listening to it because you've got an African American walking around New York talking about
American first, by the way. American
first.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm still figuring out what we're allowed. You know what I mean? But as far as I see it, and you're talking about white guilt out of liberals. And I was like, wow, I want to hear what this guy's got to say about this. And you have my attention the entire time. And then I went and, you know, I lurked your YouTube channel, was checking out, and I was like, this guy definitely needs to come on and talk. And then right when you agreed to the show, me and Red Pill were tagged under that same tweet saying that we should have you on. It was all happening in real time.
It was meant to be.
That's right. That is God at work on our lives. And I just want to say, you know, to Method's point, I have always considered the attitude of white guilt by people on the left to be just the most offensive form of pandering, you know, to act like we have to take on this collective guilt for things that the vast majority of us have never done. You know what I mean? It's the same thing as blaming anyone of another race for the collective sins of anyone else of their race who have done terrible things. And to be frank, Caucasians do not have the market on suffering and doing bad things. I mean, all people throughout history, we have a history of dividing and conquering. You know, people go into different nations, they take over, and then, you know, there has to be some type of an assimilation. So I want to know, what has your experience been like living in New York, living through these protests, and, living with the idea of people telling you what you should and shouldn't believe?
It's the ultimate form of low expectation racism, in my opinion, to be honest with you. I tell people all the time, I tell people all the time, in this country, the first time I really dealt with in your face racism is the day I said I'm voting for President Trump in 2016. Once I came out online on Facebook and said I'm supporting Trump, I got the biggest backlash. Not just, of course, I grew up in Maryland, very blue state. So a lot of, my, of course, white liberal friends there, they hated it. And I got a lot of backlash from them. I mean, of course, my family, of course, the black community is 92% voting Democrat until November. But, so I got all my aunts, uncles, my sister even wouldn't talk to me for a bit of time. I mean, I got the ultimate backlash from people. And I'm just like, wow, what I've been talking politics since MySpace. And I never, everybody always said, oh, Chris, you're so intelligent, you're so smart, you're so well-spoken, blah, 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 blah. The moment I said I'm coming out to support Trump, it was like, are you an idiot? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, what are you talking about, guys? Like, at first, I was so taken back by it that a good friend of mine, Doug, shout out to Doug Kelly in Baltimore, Italian guy who became a conservative before I did. We're really good friends. He called me up and he was like, bro, are you gonna let people talk to you like that online? I see what's happening to you on Facebook. I'm like, and he knows how I am. I don't take nothing from nobody when it comes to debating and topics and everything like that. I know my stuff. So I was like, no, you're right. I'm going to fight back. So I literally had to go down the line, like from childhood friends, aunts, uncles, like one by one, boom, 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 and really school every single one of them one by one. Because these people, anybody knows me knows, I don't get involved in anything unless I've done my research and I know what I'm doing. I'm not going to blindly go into something because, oh, it's Trump. He's on The Apprentice. I love Trump. Okay. Home Alone 2. Yeah, he's got my support. Like, give me a break here, guys. Like, I looked into this. Once I said, okay, once Dr. Ben Carson got screwed by the media, the whole West Point issue, because I was my first candidate, I looked at Trump and I said, okay, I saw how you destroyed the media. And I said, I like that about him, of course, because I already knew by that point the media decided our presidents. So I said, okay, Trump can handle the media, no problem. What's his policies? And then I saw his policies. And I'm like, wow, a lot of his policies I totally agree with. And then when I looked into his videos from all the way back to the late 70s, early 80s, he's been saying the same message back then that he was running on in 2016. So I said to myself, I said, Trump, if you're being honest right now to the American people, and this is really what you're running on, I have no reason not to support you. And I'm going to come out and support you. But I got, like I said, the heavy backlash. I mean, you know, I have, you know, white friends calling me Coon, Uncle Tom, crazy stuff like that. And when they would call me that, I would call them back and say, okay, thanks for being racist. And I hate using that word because of the left, but I use it because I'm being honest. And they're like, oh, whoa, I'm not racist. I'm being racist. I'm like, you're telling a black man he's not being black enough. What do you think that is? And they're like, oh, yeah, exactly. You're being racist. And, you know, it really had to be like, you know, it was Bristol that I had to really deal with. And being in New York City, it doesn't make it easy. You can't walk around Manhattan with a Trump hat on. I mean, I do sometimes, don't get me wrong, I still do. But if you do, you got to prepare, man. You're going to have people cussing you out, giving you the finger, threatening you. You know, I've been attacked by Antifa on one occasion, physically attacked. And, you know, it's just, it's insane. You know, I tell people all the time, if you're going to be a Trump supporter in New York, you got to prepare yourself because you're going to get it. You're going to, doesn't matter who you are, male, female, black, Hispanic, of course, worse in my opinion for a minority, but you're going to get attacked. So just prepare to fight back.
Do you think that the attacks against you are more or less overt than the attacks on Caucasian Trump supporters? Because it seems like to be honest, like the majority of the most vocal people in the Antifa and the left and in these demonstrations, the most vocal and the most abusive people are Caucasian, like women, it seems like, you know, lots of white women just acting crazy.
Liberal women, I mean, I've been called names mostly online. The only time I've been called names personally, like, you know, names I just mentioned or said I'm turning my back on my people, it's been by liberal white women. They are the ones, because they say it and they have that, I don't want to say women privilege, but they know they're going to say something. More than likely, I'm not going to smack them upside their head or threaten them or anything like that. You know, so they know they can get away with it. But what I do with them, this is what I love to do, especially with the pseudo-intellectual types of stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Is they attack me is I come back at them with facts, evidence, and information, and I school them. And I'm like I said, I went to college. I dropped out early. I said, you know, I saw that first bill. I'm like, I got to pay this back. And they're like, yeah, I'm out of here. You know, and I went and got my own career, sales on my own, making good money on my own without college. But when I run into those college-educated types on the left, and when I school them, what it does to me, tell you what, it's like a step-by-step process. First, they talk like they're better than you. They're on a high horse, I call it. So first thing I do is knock the legs off the high horse, knock them down face to face. Then I school them when they get face to face with me. And when that happens, it upsets them. It pisses them off. And you want to see the Democrat Party is, I call them the Demon-crat Party with 3 Ks. And you want to see true racism? Get a pseudo-intellectual white liberal, and as a black conservative, school them on politics. You will see the racism come out real quick. And I've done it so many times, I can't even count it anymore.
That's awesome. So you've got an organization called the Conservative Republican Alliance of New York. Tell us about that.
Okay, yes, it's CRA, the Conservative Republican Alliance of New York. How it all started was I first did my first video I ever did, because I was on social media just kind of going back and forth after Trump won. I was just ranting on Facebook. A friend of mine was like, Chris, why don't you start making videos? I was like, all right. So, you know, just the timing of it. Then when I made like a little video for my friend, I sent it to her. She said, oh, it was really good. The next day, Brennan Strock did the walkway video, and his video went viral. And at the end of the video, he said, "Look, if you have a walkway story, share it with me, and I'll put it on my social media platforms." So I said, "Okay." And I literally was coming home from work. I'm in New York. I got rid of my car a little while ago. You don't need one in New York. I got off the bus and I was walking home. And if you look at my first ever video, it's a walkway video. I go, hey, it's Christopher Wright in New York. What better way to do a walkway video than when you're walking away? So I literally was walking home and I did my walkway video, and it went viral. And when I saw it went viral, I immediately started a YouTube channel, and I got my link from my YouTube channel and put on my walkway video on Facebook, and said, if you like this, there's more videos coming on the way. So a lot of people started subscribing to my YouTube channel. People started commenting, saying, "Oh man, Chris, you're a Black conservative in New York, man. I thought I was the only one that existed. I didn't think there was anybody out here." And so not just Black, but a lot of white, Hispanic, a lot of different races and cultures, Jewish people, conservatives reaching out to me saying, "Wow, man, I didn't think we had something going on out here." It was happening so often that I said to myself, "Well, what can I do about this?" A lot of people, I'm glad these people are supporting me and support my videos and checking out my content, but what can I do for them to help them out? So I said, you know what? I'm going to start a group, and it's going to be a conservative group here, and it's just going to be, it's not going to be about necessarily political parties. It's going to be based on conservative ideology, and if you believe in ideology and you believe what it stands, conservatism stands for, come and join my group. And I started the group, and a lot of people started coming in from locally in the New York area, and what I started doing is just planning monthly meetings. So once a month I have a meeting, and of course I got to find certain bars and restaurants that allow Republicans in New York, and I found a couple. So I started having these monthly meetings at these locations and bring these people there, and they come, and it started off with just 3 people, including myself, my first ever meeting. And the last event I had was a Turn New York Red rally, which had over almost 200 people show up.
Wow.
And so it grew so fast, and people, every CRA event I do, what I love about it is it's always somebody new coming up to me saying, "Thank you so much, Chris, for doing this. Thank you so much." I mean, this is a Broadway actor. I'm not going to say his name, of course, but he's like, "Man, I can't even think about Trump at work. I'll lose my career." So he's like, only time I can talk about Trump is when I come to these events. So people are coming up to me who, in all walks of life, just thanking me for what I'm doing. And it's giving me the courage to just keep building and keep growing, man, because there's a large conservative-based movement here in New York City, and you would never, ever, ever, ever have a clue, because the mainstream media, of course, won't even give you the hint that New York even has one conservative in there. Forget like an army worth.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, the fact that you're doing this and speaking out, you don't know who you might be motivating that you never actually get to talk to, because it's a video that goes online and might go viral or whatever. You have no idea who you might be motivating to be the next Christopher Wright.
No, that's very true.
Go ahead, buddy.
And I went to one of my best moments of all of this, what I've been doing. I've been doing about 2 years now. My favorite moment is to both TPUSA events. I went to Shout Out to Turning Point USA. I was invited to the Black Leadership Summit both years, and I had young Gen Z, I call them, like it's a couple a little older than that, but around 21 and younger, like 11 and 21-year-olds coming up to me at these events, like thanking me. Like I thought, look at me like I'm a celebrity. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I can meet you. I love your videos. I watch all your videos. I'm the reason I've been doing videos. I don't know if you guys know a young man named Chandler Crump.
Yeah, I've seen him. I've seen this stuff. Yeah.
Very sharp young man. He's probably 16 now, 15, 16 years old. Black conservative, knows his stuff, man. He knows. I mean, talk about knowing the information and evidence and facts. He knows his stuff. His first ever interview was with me at Turning Point. So these young people come up to me just thanking me so much for what I'm doing. I had no clue I was affecting people's lives in such a positive way, and so many young people. And it's like, and that's what puts a battery in my back. People see when they see the negative side of my video. Sometimes somebody's cussing me out, threatening me or whatever. I'm just like shrugging them off, keep it going. People are like, "Man, I don't know how you do it, man. I don't know how you, Black conservative in New York, and you deal with all this." It's the people that come up to me with those encouraging words. Those are the words I hear, not the negative, not negativity, not the threatening and all the stupid stuff. I hear the young people getting encouraged by what I'm doing. That's what keeps me going at the end of the day, and I'm never going to stop because of them.
Right. I mean, we get that a lot of times too, because we deal in an informational war online. I know you follow a lot of the stuff that happens in, the truth movement, or at least see it happening online. And we do get not necessarily discouraged, but overwhelmed, distressed, the people saying, they're worried about things or concerns and stuff. And that could be, it could be weighing on you. But then you get to see, you get those messages from people. You get those reaching out saying, "Hey, I just wanted to take a moment and say, thank you for doing this. I didn't have hope until I saw what you were doing." And that right there is like the energy kick that you can get that'll take you for months. And I love it.
Yo, you're not kidding at all. And I'll never forget my first video walkaway when it went viral. I had World War II veterans commenting saying, "You're brave. Thank you for what you're doing." And I'm like, you stormed the beaches of Normandy. Like,
Right.
thank you so much. I appreciate what you're saying, but you guys are my superheroes. Like, you know, I watched a million World War II movies, and of course, seen that infamous and the whole entire war. But that, of course, that's that beginning of it, the first battle of the beach over Normandy. And I mean, these guys, like my dad's an Army major, a veteran, and you know, I've always had respect for our military. You know, thank you for all the patriots out there for your service. By the way, those are in the military. And when those guys are reaching out to me, thanking me, it just told me that 100%, 110% confirmed I'm on the right side of history at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thing what you're doing. It takes an incredible amount of courage, and I don't get me wrong, it gives me incredible sadness to even have to say that. The fact that we have to be brave men and women to go out and in public and speak the way that we think. Okay, let people know that we're conservatives. I had a web design company, and then I came out as a Trump supporter. Like once I decided, hey, I'm going to vote for Trump, I came out and supported President Trump. I lost every single client. I had to fold my company. You know, I live in a very blue area, and you know, I had no idea. You know, I mean, I didn't think that was going to be the outcome. But it led me to this, of what we're doing here right now, you know. So obviously everything happens for a reason. I'm glad that it wasn't, you know, such a traumatic event for you, and that you mentioned the counter arguments that you've been able to come to people in your family, these friends who initially attacked you. Have you been able to successfully change any of these people's minds, or are they so caught up in the Trump derangement syndrome?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. When it comes to my family, I come from a very hard-headed family. a lot of aunts, by the way. Hint, hint. So they aren't so easy. Even if they're the kind of people, even if they were red pilled by me, they wouldn't tell me. You know what I mean? They'll just go in the voting booth, put, you know, check on the Trump, and leave it at that. Won't ever tell me nothing about it. So I personally wouldn't know. My sister seems like she's coming around, even though she won't say it, but I can just tell by her body language and her actions that she's starting to come around. But I've been able to red pill a lot of people. You know, the big people I was able to red pill were the Bernie bros. A lot of my friends were on the left. I'm from Maryland. Like I said, a lot of my friends were Democrats. I'll say most of them were Bernie bros, not really for Hillary. They weren't that blind, even though they were on the left, to be like, okay, Hillary, she's the next, you know, she's the greatest thing. No, they were like, okay, I'm a Democrat still. I'm going to go with Bernie. And when I saw a lot of them saying that, I told them all the same thing. I said, wait to the moment when it comes to who's going to win the primaries. And when Hillary screws over Bernie Sanders, remember who told you he's going to get screwed over. And remember, the Trump train has plenty of room after that. And Perfect. They were like, yeah, right, Chris, Bernie, people love Bernie. He has minority support. He has all this. He's doing so great, blah, 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 blah. And as time went by, and when it came down to the super delegates, Bernie got screwed. And when Bernie got screwed, I first thing I did, I didn't make fun of him. I didn't mock him. I didn't say, ha, 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 look at him to your boy. None of that stuff. I just came to him, DM'd all of them. And I said, remember who told you that from the beginning when nobody was talking about it? Now, are you willing to listen to what I have to say about Trump or not? And a lot of them said, yeah, you know, well, and they had questions. They had, like, you know, some of them list of questions. And I was able to go through every single question they had, boom, 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 and answer, not only answer, but answer like that, quick. So they knew I wasn't like Googling and trying to figure things out. I was just like, no, I'm here. I got the info. And so a lot of them were like, okay, all right, I'm going to check Trump out. And then when they saw, you know, they watched him in the campaign, you know, during the debates, everything, they end up liking him just as much as I did. And, you know, and now when you see them, if you look at my Facebook, a lot of my friends who are like all pro Trump, posting all the best memes, all that good stuff, you wouldn't even think for a second that they were the biggest Bernie bros back in 2016.
That's great.
Well, that's the beauty of watching what's happened over the last several years, because the media just, you know, we'll watch a Trump rally and then you can kind of see the screenshots from CNN, MSNBC, and they're spinning it sideways. Trump's doing this, Trump's doing that. But once the left, or people that at least take the moment to really look into what Trump said, they actually go watch the rally or go look into the stuff and take a moment, you learn exactly what you were talking about, how you went back and looked at Trump back in the day, way before he was in politics, really, and he has not changed. And that's somebody that you could bank on. And I've heard that time and time again. We, you know, once again, I'll refer to our buddy Woke Societies. Scott tells us that all he did was step back and really go check, basically fact check the media. And he took the time And then now he can hold conversations like we are now with it because he took the time to do it. And that's all we really ask for people to do is take the time, look at the information. We'll give you what we can, ask us, we're going to help you with it. But you really need to research and look into the stuff for yourself, because that's when the red pill really kicks in. Mm-hmm. And then you have somebody that's on a path that's going to create generations of patriotism. Because it's not just about Trump, it's about taking things in the right direction, because we've been in the wrong one since all of us were born.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're not kidding. You preach to the choir. I mean, the Black community is around 92% voting Democrat. I mean, I had my father's generation. My father's like I said, ex-military, most conservative man you ever meet in your life, still voting Democrat. My grandparents, Democrats. And it took. And I'm a history buff. I always loved history since 6th grade. Shout out to Mr. Keegan. He really got me into history. Really animated history teacher. I became a history buff from that point on. And I never forget the day I went to go see Hillary's America in the theater. And at the end of the movie, I'll be honest with you, I was in tears, because this big chunk of history I had no clue about, none. And I study history. So I'm like, wow, if I'm somebody who studies history, I had no clue about something that a guy from another country had to come through and immigrate over here legally and educate me on, I wouldn't have a clue. So if I'm somebody who studies history, I didn't have a clue. Imagine my family members who are educated but not really into history. They have no chance. So it just angered me to the point where, like, it got tears out of my eyes. Like, I was ready to just, I was ready to get out there in the street and just fight and not fight physically, but fight for the country, because I realized how not much I was getting lied to, but how long my people were getting lied to. Black people in America were getting lied to by the establishment, not only in the media, but in education and, celebrity Hollywood. I mean, everywhere you look, the left has control, and they're out to brainwash the community, all minority communities, really, in my opinion, everybody. But minorities are affected the most.
Chris, I'm interested to know if you've had conversations with, anybody in the various minority communities about the positive things that President Trump has done. I mean, prison reform, obviously, Bill Clinton did a real disservice to this country. President Trump undid that. And President Trump has gone a long way towards helping, people of all backgrounds here in this country to a much greater degree than anybody in the Democratic Party or even the Republican Party has done at any other point in history. How do people in the Black community, reconcile that?
Well, I'll tell you, there's two types of people I deal with on the left in the Black community. There's just the angry Uncle Tom Daffy Duck meme dancing Black guy or girl who just goes out there and says, "Oh, you're a coon, you're Uncle Tom, you're brainwashed, you're stupid." And I either A, leave it alone, or B, out troll them, depending on how I feel like that day. And there's B, the type of Black on the left that I get, and that's the person that's like, who's curious, who's just like, I don't like Trump, man, but why do you support him? What has he done for the Black community, or that makes you, get out and support this guy? Like, what's the big deal about Trump? And when I get that person, individual, I love that, because I never give that person backlash. I never come out and try to troll them or nothing like that. I educate them. I said, Trump, lowest Black unemployment in American history. He has donated more money to HBCUs than any president in American history, and passed a law where they have to have donations for the rest of their existence. Mm-hmm. Something Obama should have done way when he became first elected. Prison reform, like you said, Joe Biden and Bill Clinton pushed prison reform when they were, when Clinton was president, and they got it passed, and they got the 3 strikes law passed, which imprisoned more Blacks than any law in American history. Mm-hmm. And Trump gets in there as the First Step Act and just knocks out the 3 strikes law and gets rid of it. And I'm like, so when Blacks come up to me and I can just give them, even when it comes to here in New York City, the housing, he's donated more money to government housing than any president in American history. And of course, Cuomo pockets that money, and de Blasio pocketed it, but he's doing whatever he can in so many ways to help out the Black community. And I just educate them, and they see that I not only am I educating them, but I know my stuff, and I have evidence and facts backing it. So, the ones who are willing to listen are the ones I can red pill. Mm-hmm. Because, and I love curiosity. Give me curiosity one. Even if you talk to me the first time and you're willing to listen, but you're still like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I'm still going to be over here on my side. But you're just curious in the future, and I might post some article later on. You ask about that. Well, what about this? Okay, we'll explain this. When I hear that curious person, I always take my time out to help them out and educate them, because they are the ones who are, who are maybe not even realizing they're taking that red pill already. And there's been a lot of people who I went back and forth with, got information out. They said, okay, we agree, disagree. And then months went by and they came back and messaged me on DM and said, you know what, Chris, I remember our conversation we had. I thought about what you said and I've come around. I'm going to start thinking more conservative. And
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
Yeah. And whenever they do that, I never mock them. I never say, ha, told you so.
Right.
I say, hey, man, welcome to the right side of history. I'm thank you for listening. And God bless, man. You have any more questions or anything? Feel free to reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you out.
Beautiful.
I mean, that's exactly the way to do it. One, you need to be approachable. And two, sometimes the red pill that you give them is extended release. You're not going to win them over right in that moment. They're going to take it back and chew on it in their own free time and what do you call it, their safe space or in their home. They're going to really think, and they're going to be by themselves on their phone and say, all right, I'm bored. I'm going to go ahead and look up some of this stuff. And it really came from just that moment. But if you weren't approachable, or at least, trying to be understanding and not arguing back with them, they at least left with a better feeling than they would have expected in the middle of a fight. And that might have been very well helping that red pill digest better. And then down the road, they come back and asking questions, and you can have a legitimate conversation, which is what the left, Democrats, media, all of them don't want happening. They do not want these conversations to be happening. And that, to me, anytime they want us to not be doing something, that's when we make sure that we are doing it all the time.
Yes, exactly. That means we're doing the right thing. It's when they start going out there and complaining about it every single day. That means we're doing the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, because their techniques, their tactics are not going to work if people start coming together from across the aisle and start having that conversation, start having that dialogue, and really start examining things, looking at it for the truth that it is, and not just immediately going with that emotional response that they're trying to plant in people every day. Now, are you seeing any change in New Yorkers with regard to, say, Cuomo and de Blasio? I mean, I think that everybody from outside of New York can look and objectively say, de Blasio is destroying New York City. Cuomo is, doing a really bad job for the people of New York State. I mean, is that starting to sink in at all?
Yeah, I believe it is, because, I got special names for them. It's Mobster Cuomo and, Commie de Blasio.
There you go.
One acts like a commie, the other one acts like a mobster. And if you look at history of the world, mobsters and communists never got along because they're trying to both achieve the same goal, but in different ways of doing it. So that's why if you look at de Blasio and Cuomo, they don't get along, but they're both horrible leaders, in my opinion. And what you'll also know, if you look at my videos I do, because I do videos when I also go to the left, because I don't want to be just somebody just strictly conservative, biased, boom, boom, boom. I'll go out to a Black Lives Matter march. I'll go to an Antifa event, and I'll walk around and, show people what's going on out there. And when I go to these events on the left, like there's the recent event in City Hall Park, the like I call it Chaz 2.0, where New York City's like their version of Chaz, like, oh my goodness. But one of the things I noticed when I'm walking around, they vandalized all the government buildings around there. It looks like a New York subway station in the 80s. It looks horrible. And so they just totally wrecked it. But when I go to these events, you see all their spray paints. You look, and I of course look at the spray paint what they're writing, and a lot of it's F de Blasio.
Really?
And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, and I've talked to people on the left, not only just the spray paint, but I talked to people on the left who are willing to talk. And, we might be going back and forth about Trump, But when we get to de Blasio, we both come to a common agreement, like, yeah, that guy's an idiot. And so it's like, it's just surprising because I'm just curious, how does this guy get elected in the first place? Because it just seems like there's a lot of disagreement with him on the left and the right. I just assumed that maybe when he got elected, the fact that he was just a Democrat and that just alone got him the votes he needed. And when he started leading, and it was just a horrible job of him leading, then of course it was right in our faces where it doesn't matter what side you're on, you can tell this guy's a terrible mayor. So I'm just thinking that like we're coming, like a lot of New Yorkers are coming around, especially when it comes to de Blasio, that he's not the guy we want in the future when it comes to our city. So there's a little bit bright light in the tunnel when it comes to that. I'm hoping that it goes broader than just de Blasio. I hope people on the left who, aren't radical leftists, because a lot of radical leftists out here, the socialist left or whatever you want to call them. But I hope the ones who are still moderate, who still have enough logic to be, kind of there to be moderate enough, they are totally done with what the far left done with it. But the only thing I'm worried about in New York City, I'm gonna be honest with you, is the GOP here is ran by rhinos. It's the Rhino Republican Party in New York. I tell people always ask me to see my videos. Oh, Chris, please run. I got people claiming run for Congress assemblyman, run for mayor. I heard, all stuff. And I said, look, I wouldn't mind doing it, but I realized a long time ago in New York City, if you run for government as a Republican, the first person that'll cut your throat would be, before you even get to a Democrat, will be a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't fit that GOP rhino establishment kind of governing, they're gonna get rid of you before the left can get rid of you. When Trump just got elected, I'm a member of a couple of Republican clubs here in the city. And when Trump just got elected, I would go to events, and the first thing they would say is no MAGA gear, and I'm like, no MAGA gear. I'm like, this guy is the president of the United States. He's a Republican. He's from New York. Hello, and
right.
But it didn't matter because Trump was the brash truth teller. And they don't like that. It doesn't matter if he's Republican and he's from New York and all that. He doesn't fit that rhino establishment mold. So they don't want to be a part of that. And Trump, of course, did so well when he became president that eventually they came around and said, okay, all right, Trump. But they still come out a lot of times. So I go to these events and they're like, I wish he didn't tweet so much. Oh my gosh, why does he have to be so brash? Why does it be so? I'm like, that's what got him in office. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I tell people all the time, this is my favorite quote. Give me a brash truth teller over an articulate liar any day of the week.
100%.
I worked my butt off when I was younger to get Obama elected. In 2008, I went door to door for him, got over 500 votes for Obama. I was yes, we can all day long. And he spoke so well. I thought he was like the second coming of MLK. And then when he became president, he had to lead. I saw he was definitely no MLK. And so I was like, I almost was willing to give him politics at that point. And when Trump came along and I saw his style, and he, like I said, I've done sales, so I had managers like Trump. So I'm not intimidated by somebody who comes out there and is like, boom, here it is. Hey, how you like that? How you like them apples? I'm like, okay, yeah, I hear you. Let's get it done. So I'm not intimidated by it. So when he came out like that, I was down. I was like, okay, I'm still going to accept this guy. And then when I found he stuck to his word, there was no more questions after that. This is my guy. But the fact that I see Republicans who see that he's backing his word, but they just wish he could present his word a little bit nicer. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my goodness, man. See, I don't like that. I don't like that. We need to get away from that establishment look, in my opinion, even the Republican Party.
Well, we've already got Kelly in the chat saying Christopher Wright for New York City mayor. So you're already on your way there. But I do want to ask you, because you had a rally last week in New York. It was Turn New York Red. I've been dropping your link to Twitter like a madman in the chat. I'm going to do that. You guys go over there, follow him. He drops bombs and videos all the time. Absolutely love his work. But in his bio, he's got the hashtag Turn New York Red. And I was going through it earlier just as a refresher, and there's just it looked like a lot of good energy going on. But tell us what happened in that rally, man.
Okay. I was meant to do this rally back in February. And this is right before the COVID, information started hitting in the U.S. And when it hit, how New York acted. We acted like it was, World War III. So we shut everything down, everything like that. So it got to the point where I had to keep pushing it back. And because with my CRA group, I got people of all ages, races, genders, males, females, everybody. So the biggest thing I didn't want to do was get people involved in a situation where a lot of people get arrested, maybe get physically attacked, something where somebody can get hurt. So I wanted to make sure this rally went, as like a peaceful, as much of a rally as I possibly could. So I was playing in City Hall Park. They kept pushing it back. I went to a couple reopened New York rallies that they were happening, and there would be about 20 or 30 Trump supporters there. And these people were like average age 40 plus, and they would send like it's a drug raid kind of police force at us. Wow. And they'd be all armored up and everything like that. I'm like, what in the world? They'd be for 20 people. And I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, okay, so that made me say, I can't do my rally if it's like this. If we do a little reopen New York rally and this gets shut down at this, I can't do my rally when it's like this. And so eventually, of course, that moment with George Floyd and everything and Justice for George, and they did the whole Black Lives Matter, Antifa rallies all over New York. And there were like 1,000 people at one rally I attended, and half of them didn't have masks on. There was no social distancing. And I was like, and Cuomo and de Blasio did nothing about it. So when I did that, I said, you know what? I'm not backing down anymore. I'm done. I'm ready to go. I'm going to fight. And I just said, okay. So I just kind of just trying to look at the social situation as best I could and make the best decision. So what I decided to do was, okay, it was in City Hall Park initially. I said, I got to move from City Hall Park and go to Trump Tower, because Trump Tower in New York City is often for conservatives like a safe space to go, like our safe space.
Sure.
You want to, and we go there for a lot of our events and things like that, and nobody really bothers us. So I was with my friend Dylan Ross. Shout out to Dylan Ross. He's a conservative voice here in New York City. He's also does a lot of camera work for me. We were at City Hall Park, doing the whole Chaz thing, recording that. And I was like, after we were done, I was like, man, I can't have my rally here. I should do it at Trump Tower. So I was like, he's like, good idea. So he's like, go to Trump Tower and just do some footage of you out front talking about the rally and like a promo and stuff. I said, yeah, sure, let's go. So Trump Tower wasn't too far away from City Hall Park. So we got, started walking, we headed there. And right when we headed there, we see a bunch of people from a distance, police force everywhere. We're like, what's going on there? So when we get there, we see de Blasio just left. He just got finished painting Black Lives Matter in front of Trump Tower. Mm-hmm. And I'm just sitting there like, you just saw my face. I was like, you would think a bomb just went off. I was just like looking like, what in the world is this? Like, right. I can't even go to Trump Tower now. You guys, they had leftists all out there, radical leftists, saying crazy things out front. So, I thought about it. I said, I don't know if I can do this, man. So I went home and I said, right now, I'm not going to do it. And I went home, I thought about it. And I just thought about those World War II veterans I talked about earlier and everybody that came out saying how brave I was and everything like that. And these were real patriots. And I was like, you know what? If they could fight the way they fought, I can host a rally in front of Trump Tower, my president's location. So I called Dylan. I said, look, we're going to do it, man. We're going to do this. He's like, you sure, man? You ready? I said, you sound ready. I'm like, I'm ready to go. Let's do this. So he's like, all right, man. So, I set everything up for the next couple of days and I got everything done. I've been posting about the event for months, but I kept pushing it back. So people were like messaging me like, are you going to do it this month? So I was telling everybody, I sent out like a group message email. I'm doing it. It's official. We're doing it. I made a little post, like a meme and everything for it. And the day came and more people came out than I expected. And, I was like, wow. And these people were, like I said, it looked like New York City. It wasn't like, a majority white people, and nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't a majority of a certain race. It was all races, all cultures. We had, a couple transgender Trump supporters, gay Trump supporters, everybody, black, white, Hispanic, everybody showed up. And, we had a strong voice and we were just making our voices heard. And of course, the Black Lives Matter people that are around at first were like, what in the world is this? And, because not only were we out there making our voices heard, like verbally hearing us audio wise, but we had a strong message behind what we were saying. Everybody that was on the microphone speaking had information for people to go Google and research. And eventually Black Lives Matter and Antifa showed up more and they came out to kind of go against us. And when you looked at their group, they had about 2 or 3 black people with them. And my group had about 80% black people with us. and so I had the speakerphone. I was yelling at they had these girls like, black trans rights or something like that. and I was like, Black trans lives matter. And I was just like, and I was yelling on the speakerphone, like as they're like right in front of me. I had a speakerphone. I was like, where's your black people? Where are the black people? Where are your black people?
They're on our side.
They're like, I'm like, exactly. You guys are coming out for Black Lives Matter. There's no black people on your side. The black people are on our side, and they're on our side because this is a president that's actually supporting them. So they're going to come out and support somebody who's actually backing them, who's cutting their taxes, who's increasing the stock market so they can invest for the first time in their life, who's got lowest black unemployment in American history, on and on and on and on that Trump is doing for his country. So there's a lot of people, minorities who support him, and they came out and supported. And we made, so many people like saw the video. I'm so thank you guys for tagging it and sharing it. I appreciate what you guys did. It got so much attention, and I've been getting positive feedback. From a lot of different sources right now, reaching out to me saying, "Wow, I love what you're doing. We got your back." Back to Blue. Shout to Back to Blue. They had over in Bay Ridge. They had a big march the same day with like almost 1,000 people there. And the people that organized that, not to go too much in detail, but they reached out to me and said they want to do something with me as well. So I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, we can do a Back to Blue, Turn New York Red rally combination together and unite. And what my goal is, because I'm a big fan of Martin Luther King Jr., is because he said we're all equal, pretty much. We're all, it doesn't matter. It's all about your skin color, but the content of character. So I base my political action off of his action. Like I'm about uniting, peaceful protesting, getting our voices heard, and fighting for truth. So I would love to hopefully get this Back to Blue, Turn New York Red rally combination together. And I want to have that picture that I love with Martin Luther King, one of the civil rights marches when he's locked arms, arm by arm with whites, blacks, everybody, and they're lined up marching together. That's my goal, is to get that same image and just have us marching together. And I want to march right through the middle of Fifth Ave in Manhattan and let everybody see this is what this country is about. United we stand. We're all Americans. America first.
100%.
I absolutely love it. And if that does come into fruition, by all means, let Red Pill and I know. We will make as much noise about it on the internet as possible. Make sure it's being covered in real time, because that's what needs to happen. We need to show. There's been a lot of calls for action, in the streets and stuff. But we were going through all these, this manufactured quote unquote race war. And it's kind of one of those things where they were kind of trying to poke the bear, you know, the patriot bear, if you will, and try to get us to be in a civil war. But it's one of those things that a lot of us just want to be left alone. You know, we don't want to go out there and fight you and do all that stuff, but we will defend our own. And we were talking about it off air about this race war in general. But real quick, I know that you wanted to mention about that Black Lives Matter mural, because you actually know the person. Now, just let me preface this for the audience. I know that y'all have seen the video of this woman going and dumping paint on the Black Lives Matter and stuff. It went viral. We've all seen it. She's going off. She's painting it, you know, whatever. And then she ended up going off and nailing not just that one, but multiple ones. But go ahead and tell the story about this, because you actually know this woman.
Yes, her name is Bevelyn Beatty. I met her. If you guys, a lot of people might have checked out the YouTube video. It was the Vice video that happened about a little over a year ago. It was Black conservatives versus Black liberals. And, you know, she was on the Black conservative side alongside me, Ralph Smith, and Fernando Acosta, who I still know who are still strong Trump supporters to this current day. And we ripped those liberals apart. I mean, we just destroyed them. And at first, they released a little 8-minute clip because we beat them so bad they had to edit all of it out. It was over an hour-long debate. Then people were like, in the comment section, like, where's the rest? Where's the rest? We want to see the rest, even leftists. So then they released like a 48-minute version where you can really tell we ripped them apart. But it was still over an hour worth of footage, and they still cut out some of it where we really got them. And so me and Bevelyn, you know, stayed in contact after that. You know, anytime I had something going on and she could be a part of it, I reached out to her. Anytime she had something going on, she reached out to me. I came out and did what I could to support her. So, you know, she, you know, was reaching out to me because she saw with all these Black Lives Matter murals getting painted all around. All 5 boroughs have one. So we have, you know, people who are not from New York, there's 5 boroughs in New York City, Brooklyn, you know, Queens, Staten Island, Manhattan, you know, and, you know, this the 5 boroughs set up. And they were putting these Black Lives mural symbols. So she reached out to me. I went on a little vacation. I just got back literally today. I was in Florida, and she reached out to me about the day before. It was Saturday is when it occurred, but on Friday she reached out to me. Hey Chris, I got a great idea. You know, I want to go out to all these Black Lives Matter murals. We get a bunch of black paint rollers, and I want to paint over the black on the Black Lives Matter so this says all lives matter. And I said, you know what, Bevelyn, that's a great idea. You know, I'm on board. I got your back. And like, when are you planning on doing it? She said, I'm going to do it Saturday. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, oh, I'm in Florida. I said, I'd love to come out there. You know, I got your back. You know, that sounds like something I'll be out there just, you know, that'll go viral in a heartbeat. I'd love to go out there and help you out. But I can't. I'm in Florida. So she's like, okay, thank you. But, you know, can you just share it when I, you know, go out there? And yeah, of course, I got you. So I saw her. She went out there and she went above and beyond because she went to Manhattan first at Trump Tower. She put the black paint over that mural. The cops came, arrested her. And, you know, bail reform, it's increasing crime in New York City, unfortunately. But the good thing is she got released the same day because of bail reform. So they released her the same day. And then she went out to Harlem, which is another part of Manhattan, had another mural. Did a drive-by mural, like, dump off on that one. Then she went to Brooklyn, which is like, you know, people from New York know Brooklyn's like not the nicest neighborhood. She went there at night and did it again in Brooklyn. So when she did that, I was like, wow. Like, I didn't expect her to do that. You know, I was like, man, that was amazing. And, you know, Bevelyn, if you guys haven't watched the videos, you guys tell she's very vocal. She's very, you know, she's not afraid. She's not going to back down from anybody. She's just as, you know, as alpha as any male I know. So she's out there and not afraid to get her voice heard and not backing down from nobody. So she got out there and did her thing. And, you know, her videos are going viral. She's getting a whole lot of attention. And right before I came to do an interview with you guys today, I literally got the plane. First thing I did, and I had to rush because I had to, you know, check here by 6 p.m. I rushed to Trump Tower and I did a quick video showing the aftermath of what she did. And I was just saying, like, here we are, everybody. Like, you know, conservatives in New York, we're making our voices heard. We're not backing down. We're here to fight. You know, and that, you know, that video's getting a lot of attention. And so, you know, we are showing the country that there's a lot of conservatives in New York. And let's like conservatives you find in Texas or Georgia, or, you know, any right-wing state, we're just as patriotic as anybody else, and we're not afraid to go out there and fight for the truth in our country.
That's awesome. Now, one of the things that I noticed in your videos is that when you were at some of these leftist rallies, it looked like people might have been warned that you could possibly be there. Like people were checking to see if you were the person that they were warned about. Did they know who you are? Were they handing out flyers with like your video information on it?
Oh yeah. There was an incident that happened a while back. I don't know if you guys heard about it or knew about it. It was an incident where Proud Boys got in a fight with Antifa in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recorded that video because so once I recorded that video, I shared it on Facebook Live. As soon as I shared it on Facebook Live, because what happened was we left the Gavin McInnes event. He came to speak at a Metropolitan Republican Club. I went there hoping to get an interview with Gavin, just so I knew he was a controversial figure. I also like his content. I'm not going to lie. So I was like,
sure,
with Gavin. And after it was over, the cops were outside, and the whole block was full of Antifa. And they were calling us Nazi scum, you know, all this crazy stuff. I'm like, I'm a black dude, they call me Nazi scum, or whatever. So we come out, you know, the cops separate us, and they separate us pretty good at first. And, you know, we're walking our way. We're going to a bar to meet up with Gavin where he's located. And 5 members of Antifa broke off from their group, and they went to the end of the block where we're eventually going to be at, waiting for us. So when we got there, they were waiting, and they threw a bottle at us. And when they threw the bottle, of course, Proud Boys, you guys know, they're not going to sit and play patty cake with you. They got in there, and they mixed it up, and I've seen enough fights in my day, grew up near Baltimore, that I know when a butt kicking is coming, and I knew it was coming. So I was going to get my phone out and record this. So I recorded it. I got the footage out there, and as soon as I shared my Facebook Live video, they suspended my account for 30 days on Facebook. Oh. And I was like, okay, I'm used to it. I didn't think nothing of it. I woke up the next morning, and I had like 5 missed calls, a bunch of voice messages. What's going on? So I called the first number that I had a missed call from. I called him back, and it was one of the Proud Boy members. And he's like, Chris, dude, I'm like, you know, you got to release your video. I'm like, what are you talking about? I shared it on Facebook Live. And he's like, they deleted it, but they took your video and they cut you out of it. And they're saying a white supremacist group attacked anti-fascist. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, you know, like, yeah. So I'm like, oh my goodness. So I said, okay. So I go out there. I put the video out there of what really happened. They saw there was a black guy who was the one recording the video with these white supremacists. And they were protecting me in a way because I was the camera guy at the time. And so people were like, whoa, I thought they were just these guys white supremacists. What's going on? So I really woke up a lot of people to what was really going on when it came to the media at that moment. And even Governor Cuomo got involved, and because Antifa wasn't going to press charges after getting beat up. And so Cuomo said, if you guys don't press charges, I'm going to press charges. And so he pressed charges against Antifa, and against the Proud Boys, and make a long story short, 2 guys got pretty much the hammer dropped on them. And 2 of the guys from Proud Boys ended up getting 4 years apiece in jail for a little like a middle school skirmish. And, you know, I went and testified for them in court and everything. DA came to my house, all this stuff went. It was crazy stuff that happened. And they still got punished. And so, but after that point on, the radical left here knew about me from that point on. So if you guys watch that video, I have a YouTube video. It's like, it's called like Chris, I clashed with Antifa or something like that. And it was really, I left Trump Tower one day, and I was walking just to go home. And I saw Antifa, you know, marching down the street. They had, you know, anti-racism, anti-fascism, blah, 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 blah. You know, that's bullish sign they had up. So I knew it was them. So I said, you know what? This is my opportunity. I know how these guys are. I know how they can be. I'm going to record them, but I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to record them and just be totally silent. So I was recording them. If you guys watch the video, I'm recording them. You know, getting their faces, of course. And then all of a sudden, one guy points me out and says, that's Christopher Wright. He's a fascist. He's an anti-fascist, you know, And as soon as he says that, all of them turn around. And of course, they got the little buzzers and police sirens and in my face, you Nazi, da-da-da. So when he started calling me a Nazi, first thing I do is flip the camera on myself to show people, this is the Nazi they're talking about, people. This is what you guys know, Nazi. and then I flip it back on them, and they're, oh, you know, da-da-da. And they have cops that are walking with them. And I don't ever go against the police, NYPD here, because I know a lot of them, they're just doing what de Blasio, they're just fulfilling his orders. So they were, you know, pretty much, you know, walking alongside Antifa. And when they started doing that crazy stuff towards me, I started backing away a little bit. And there was a street behind me. So I'm about to cross the street. And the cop yells to me, on the sidewalk. And I said, okay, I'm going to walk across the street. And he goes, on the sidewalk. And the cop pushes me right into the middle of Antifa. So once he pushed me into the middle of Antifa, I was kind of like, okay, well, I'm here now. Like, I got to do what I got to do. So I just walked through them. And I walked through them, and, you know, they're cussing at me, you black Nazi, you're Nazi, da-da-da, banging on drums, da-da-da, Nazi. And I'm walking through them, I'm smiling like, everybody's very conservative, hey. And, you know, and so I'm walking through this whole crowd of Antifa, and they're doing all these threats to me. And they all, you know, a lot of people on the left are so quick to call me a token. But the only black guy of that masked white majority group came up to me, and he was like, oh, yeah, you Chris Wright, yeah, F you, da-da-da. Yeah, I know you. You over there on Fulton Street. Yeah, I watch your video. I know who you are. And he knew the street at that time. That's where I was living. So he watched me enough to know the street I was living on. Mm-hmm. And so when he said that, I knew he was watching me quite a bit. So I was like, yeah, keep watching, brother. Just keep watching. And he's cussing at me. And he's pushing me in the video and everything because they're trying to, like I said, poke the bear. Because all they wanted to do was push me into whatever for me to react. If I threw one elbow or one right hook or whatever, it would have been a swarm on me. And who knows, Cuomo probably would have came out and said I was the aggressor. So I just kept walking, let them cussing at me and everything, and I played it cool. I got a military father who was like a drill sergeant. So you just making little threats and cussing at me is not going to affect me. Like, you're not going to touch my dad. Sorry. So I like walked through it, just played cool as a cat, walked through. And I said, whoa, okay. And when I got through him and he left me alone, I said, wow, okay, well, that's the left, people. That's the Democratic Party right there. Hope you guys realize this. And that video got a lot of attention because of the fact that, the people on the left who were in the comment section couldn't do their typical talking points. Oh, well, he was doing this. He was making fun of him. He started it. He was trying to troll him or whatever. I did absolutely nothing. I was totally solid, and they were the aggressors the entire time. So it really got a lot of people's attention of like, wow, a black guy walking through Manhattan in New York on a regular day is getting threatened by a bunch of white people in masks. We haven't heard about that since the 30s. And it's like, well, it's happening in Manhattan in 2019 at the time. So, this is, I just wanted, and that was what and back in my mind, I kind of knew they were going to do that, but I wanted them to do that because I want the people to see this is what we're dealing with in New York City. And it's happening now in New York City. And if you don't do something about it now, it's going to happen across the entire country.
You're absolutely right. And that's extremely important. I'm glad that you got that. And, to the Proud Boys situation, I had no idea you had anything to do with that because I never saw the full video. I only saw clips of it, and I only heard about the reporting that was done in the mainstream media. And even in the alternative media, they never even mentioned that you were present in the middle of all of that. That's absolutely shocking. I mean, I guess it's really not that shocking, but I mean, I'm still dismayed every time I hear stuff like this. But good on you for getting the obvious and honest reaction of these people there in Manhattan, because this is what people need to see. I mean, I say the same thing. This is the left of today. And, they are not the saints that they are vaulted up to be on the mainstream media. They are not the innocent people. It's hilarious that whenever they invoke the name of Martin Luther King in whatever it is that they're doing, because their tactics could not be further removed from what we saw during the original civil rights demonstrations from the middle of the century. I mean, completely different situation.
No, all they're doing is they're using social justice to ride the civil rights coattail. And that's what's going on. And that's what angers me so much is because I'm in New York City. So trust me, there was literally before COVID, every other week, there was some kind of social justice, anti-Trump Orange Man Bad march or rally or whatever. They had the whole women's march with the vagina hats and everything like that. And all that crazy, the whole vagina costumes are crying out loud. So they were doing the most here in New York City when it came to these, anti-Trump events. So, and nothing was sticking, nothing they were doing. I mean, they had of course, little radical groups that they were a part of already joining in, but like the majority of the city and the country wasn't like siding with what they were trying to do. So when the death of George Floyd happened, and the Justice for George started happening, and like a lot of people in the black community started marching on behalf of George Floyd, they saw their moment to attach their social justice onto civil rights, not civil rights in terms like Martin Luther King, but like a civil rights like kind of setup. So they attached their movement onto that, and now they are getting life from civil rights, but they are really taking over. That's why when you see a lot of these riots and the looting, it's Antifa who are the ones who are breaking into windows and everything like that. Now, of course, I'm not saying the Black Lives Matter people don't participate in stealing a nice pair of Jordans or whatever it may be, but the ones who are setting up the bricks beforehand that are sitting there ready, waiting for people to come, that's Antifa. That's the George Soros money. That's Hillary Foundation money that's doing this. So now they see a movement that they can get attached to, and they can't just get attacked either because they have black people as pawns in front of them.
Exactly.
So, you attack us, what are you anti-black? Are you going to attack all you black? And it's like, so I see what they're doing, and it angers me even more because I knew what you guys were doing before George Floyd. You guys were just randomly, whatever, talk of the town, where the week was, you guys were doing that. And now you got something that actually gives you guys a little bit of life, and you're running amok, and you're literally trying to burn the country down with it.
You're absolutely right. What about just recently, the city of New York disbanded their anti-crime unit. Now, for all of the flack that the anti-crime unit has gotten throughout the years, they did a lot of work to get illegal weapons out of the hands of people who were going to be using them. Not law-abiding citizens, not people holding legally registered firearms that they're, legally, lawfully authorized to carry. But we're talking about criminals, people who are out there committing gun violence on a daily basis. Gun violence shootings are up somewhere close to 600% in New York City now that the anti-crime unit has been disbanded. And I've seen recently some black leaders in New York City calling for the reinstatement of the anti-crime unit because of, you've got children being killed, I mean, you've got many, many people getting shot. It's getting to be like Chicago proportions. So, what have you seen on the street there from, people who maybe were for disbanding of these this police unit? Have you talked to anybody who are, having second thoughts about it?
Yeah, well, I see a lot of people who are part of just like the NAACP type civil rights, where it's like they were around way before Antifa and all that. Like those people are who are just moderate, like civil rights activists who are still out there. They are starting to step up and say, we don't want nothing to do with this. Like, we were part of Justice for George and all that stuff. But, this whole, defund the police, like this is not part of the agenda here, because people don't realize if you defund the police, the first people that be affected is the inner city. That's the first place that's going to be affected if you start dismantling the police force. And I'm like, look, I tell people all the time, I'm in a part of New York where in the 80s and the 70s, it was rough. And because of Mayor Giuliani getting in there and really focusing on around for the good in a very good way, and really made New York in a lot of areas that weren't so safe in the 80s and 70s, totally in the 90s even, very safe now to live in. And me personally, even me personally, my own neighborhood, I've noticed, there's been 2 shootings out front of where I live. I heard the gunshots both times. There's been 2 corner stores that have been robbed. One was robbed where they robbed it and ripped the ATM machine out of this place and had it in the middle of the street, just sitting there. And the one corner store I always go to, I never forget, I went there to get a sandwich the other day, and the front of the front door was cracked and broken. And I'm like, what the heck happened? So I know the owner's there. So I talked to him and said, hey man, what happened to your front door, man? And I'm not dumb. I can tell something not so good probably occurred. And he's like, yeah, these guys, they tried to break in last night around 2 or 3 in the morning and take stuff from the store. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, did you guys catch them? Did you guys call police? What happened? He's like, yeah, we called the police. They got arrested. I'm like, okay, so what's the situation? He's like, they're standing right there. And I'm like, where? I'm like, right in front of the building, right there. That's them. I'm like, wow. They're standing there, right, just out there hanging out. He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, what happened? He said, you called the police, they got arrested. He said, they came and we got in an argument with one another around 1 a.m. They closed around 1 a.m. As soon as they closed, they came back around 3 a.m., tried to break in. They called the police because they had security cameras around the store. So the police arrested them. They got released because of bail reform at 6 a.m. that day. I went there to get a sandwich around 8 or 9 a.m. and they were standing out front. And I'm like, what in the world? So I'm curious, of course, curious me. I go out, I order my sandwich. I go outside, I sit next to them just to hear what they're talking about. And all I can hear is, yeah, man, I was just out here, man. These cops giving me a hard time. Yeah, they were being rough, man. They were being rough with me when they were handcuffing me, man. Da, da, da. And I'm listening, they were complaining about how rough the cops were when they arrested them. And I'm like, what in the world? And that's what's happening in New York City. It's because of all this bail reform and defund the police and all this stuff happening. Criminals aren't stupid. When they know enough about politics to know when there's going to be things to their advantage. So New Yorkers, and New York is a very old, one of the oldest cities in the country. So, and if you look at movies all the way back to Gangs of New York, there's criminal and New York go hand in hand. So when all this stuff's been happening lately, the criminals around here, it's like a business, a career here. They're like, hey, man, this is an opportunity, man. The police being defunded, crime unit being broken up. We got bail reform, being committed a crime and get released the same day. Let's make it happen. And I just, even in my own neighborhood, I'm noticing it. And if you go to Manhattan, people that have been in New York City love Manhattan. Oh, I love Manhattan. I love Fifth Avenue. Da, da, da. You couldn't even recognize Manhattan if you went there today. Buildings are boarded up. A big business, H&M, Banana Republic, Victoria's Secret, all these big name brands are even shut down. Wow. And I don't know if they're going to come back, because if you're a businessman, do you want to come back to a place where it can get overrun by criminals and the mayor won't even defend your business? Do you really want to do that? It's just, they're going to destroy New York City the way they're doing this, man. It's crazy.
Man, The only thing I can say is I hope that after November, things are going to change. I mean, I think maybe after a couple of months of the citizens of New York and these other liberal cities having to live under these conditions, maybe it's going to sink in, and they're going to do what they need to do to change things for the better. Well, Chris, we're at the end of the show, dude. It has been an incredible conversation. I want to give you the last word. What do you want people to take away?
If I got to say one thing to Americans right now listening, if you aren't registered, register to vote Republican. Get out there on November, and it's not be like it's not be like Hillary supporters in 2016. It's not get overconfident, because we love our president. We know we got his back. But the one thing I hope we do not get overconfident. Get out there and forget online mail-in ballots. Get out there and vote. Get out there and vote for our president, because I don't want Trump to just win. I don't want him just to win the electoral college again. I want him to win the popular vote, electoral college, landslide victory, and I want about 40% of the black vote on top of that. I want this to be a statement, not just to the American people, but to the establishment. We're done with your globalist BS, and we're not taking it no more. And we're going to fight back, and we're going to fight back with the way this country has been built. United we stand, divided we fall. And we're Americans, and we're all equal at the foot of the cross, all my Christian Americans out there. So everybody out there listening, thank you for taking your time out to listen to what I have to say. And thank you, these two patriots here, for reaching out to me to bring me on this amazing show. And like always, God bless everybody out there listening. God bless the United States of America.
Amen. Good stuff. All right. Thank you one more time, Chris, for being here tonight. I want to say thank you to Teresa and Ryan for those last-minute donations. I appreciate you guys. Thank you to the mods for keeping the chat comfy. Thank you to everybody who has been hanging out with us today. 3.1 thousand likes, almost 5,000 people still here. Do me a favor, leave a like on your way out the door. Go and follow Christopher Wright on all of his various social media platforms in the description of this video. Methods, once again, thank you to you for being here with us. And everyone, I will see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. for another edition of Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.